Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Secret Weapon.
No, you're not on, Jay.
It's a second. To your ultimate manifesting potential. So, Nicole, what is the secret weapon?
Well, the secret weapon it lies within your masculine and feminine energies and learning how to not only understand what those are and how they relate to you basically manifesting everything in your life, but also learning how to harmonize the energies to work at their highest potential.
Yeah, and I found that once I understood this information and started sharing it with my family and friends, it was amazing how fast they really started growing within their own energies and the alignment of the energies so that they could achieve this ability to manifest. So, a lot of people, once they synchronize these energies, have a greater potential of manifesting.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So,
It's
it's,
really exciting when you finally start to tap into those energies and really see the power behind it and see also how we are kind of lied to or not. I don't want to say lied to, although there is an aspect of that, but misled through the masculine and feminine understanding to disable our ability to manifest to our highest potential.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So, before we get started, I'm Jason Layton. I'm the creator of the Soul's Dream course. I'm a metaphysicist and I'm a hypnotherapist. And this is Nicole.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Frolic of Inflexible Me, and this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, just because it's been such a prominent part of my own journey, and it's just been super super powerful when I finally started to realize and honor both energies and learn how to work with them together. It completely shifted my life. So I love talking about this stuff so that other people can get that.
Yeah, sorry about that there. I get some text on the volume being too high. So let me turn the volume down a little bit here.
It's Mercury retrograde,
I
so we're
know.
bound to have some of these issues.
I know the technology, right?
Yeah.
Technology issues. Let me turn everything down here a little bit. Yeah, so for those of you who stay on the whole entire time, we have some amazing bonuses for you. We have a really, really interesting meditation that can activate you extremely quickly by listening to this meditation that Nicole created, and some other great bonuses. So for those of you who hang on, we have some really good stuff for you guys. So let's start off by talking about the balancing of these energies and what it means and what energies we're even talking about. Well, there is a feminine and masculine energy within each one of us. And a lot of us think masculine and feminine is gender based, but it's really energetic based because we are energy beings. And once we understand that we're not just physical beings, but we're energy beings, we can start tapping in to these energetic potentials inside of us. And when they become balanced, it allows us to manifest, meaning bringing other energy into our reality that we can experience. So it's extremely important, I feel, to balance these energies to achieve what it is we're looking to achieve in our lives. And so, Nicole, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, no, it's so important. I mean, finding the balance is why we're all here. We're living in a polarized world. We're living in the world of dualities, and we're constantly going in and out of the extremes and back to center, and that's the whole learning process. So understanding what the polarized fields are, what lies in them energetically, why we're going out there to learn, and then what we're doing when we come back to the 0 point, where the 0 point is where the masculine and feminine are completely in union and complete harmony. That's how we change the game. That's how we start to change our realities, and that's how we start to shift our world around us. Because when we come into union within us, when we reach that 0 point within us, then we get to reflect that 0 point out into the world, because our entire external world is a reflection of everything that's going on within us. So for a lot of people who are on this spiritual journey, if you're a light worker, healer, whatever it is, or you're just awakening, um, you really start to learn that you can't change anything outside of you if you're not doing the work internally. And that's just it's a law. It's a universal law that when you change all of those aspects within you, then you start to perceive all of those changes in the outside world.
Yeah, that's a very very good understanding because we're looking at this world as material based reality, right? But it's really an energetic based reality, and it's all you and your perspective and perception. So once you change your own perception, you change the reality, right? So if you want to change the world, first change yourself. And it's about taking ownership. It's about self talk. It's about you understanding your individual energies and how you can project them into the world to create. And I think that's part of the problem, like you were saying before. We were kind of misguided along the way of these energies, right? Where I grew up as a male, and as a male, it was kind of suppressing the emotions, right? So it's I would cry when I was a child, and they'd be like, "Don't cry, you're a boy. Boys don't cry," and I would suppress those emotions. So later on in life, I used to say like, "I don't want to be emotional at all." I couldn't stand emotions. I couldn't be around people who were emotional. Just it pushed me away because when I was younger, emotions are bad. But what we're talking about is suppressing energy. Suppressing the emotional energy is the manifesting energy. Energy and the emotions is motion, energy in motion. So when we bring our thoughts and our emotions together, we create our realities. And it all starts with us. It's how we perceive this world because it's through our eyes that we're giving meaning to the reality around us. So I find it's very, very important to balance these energies.
So, Jason, when you're balancing the energies, how does that help you to achieve like higher energy levels? Because a lot of people are, learning how to raise their vibration, learning how to like raise their frequency, and part of that is through the emotions. How do you suggest to people to do it, or how did you do it yourself?
Yeah, well, once I understood that we are energetic beings, right? Once I understood this, I understand that there's energetic channels within inside of us. So once we clear out these energetic channels, meaning these old conceptual ideas that were given to us when we were children, like you shouldn't cry, right? Because you're a male and males don't cry. Suppress those emotions. Once we clean out those energetic channels of the suppression of these energies, we're able to have this energy that flows through us. Some people call it the Kundalini energy. It just flows through us, giving us all of the energy. Like we wake up every day and life is amazing, right? It's not waking up and saying, oh, it's another day. It's about waking up and saying life is so amazing because the energy has a free flow in the channel within our physical being, which is pure energy. So once we release all these blockages that are inside of our energetic fields, this it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what it does.
So then finding out what those blocks are, where they reside, within your masculine energies, within your feminine energies, then really help you to raise your frequency by releasing the blockages.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it wasn't a quick process. It took a lot of research and a lot of meditations to figure out how to do this. But for everyone that's online now, I mean, what we're talking about now is our experiences, so you can shortcut to experience these higher energies extremely quickly, right? So it's not about you have to go and do all this reading. Just follow the guides that are already there in front of you and enjoy. But these blockages are within each one of us. And if anybody here thinks that you don't have a blockage of energy, you have a misconception of what the energies are. Because each one of us have this blockages, and it's so important to take the time because you are that important. You deserve that time for yourself every single day to work on allowing these energies to flow freely.
So how did you align with your purpose then? Like, what was it that really kind of was the shift that happened within you through this kind of work? Because so many people are trying to align with their purpose. And I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to get into how you use the energies to help you with that. But how did you really like fall into alignment with what you were meant to do here right now?
Um, a lot of meditation, honestly. It was a lot of self work. I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of research. I've been to a lot of seminars. But it wasn't until I really started doing the work, right? Conceptually, I knew a lot of stuff, but emotionally, the experience, the energy, emotion comes from doing the work, doing the meditations, and that's really where I was able to excel in the understanding of how to use these energies and project it into the world and bring what you want into your expression, into your experience, to manifest what it is you desire. And a lot of my life is manifesting. Like when I desire something, I have the thought, I tie the emotion to it, and I bring them together into the feeling of the heart. And the heart is it's an electromagnetic device, and it draws to you whatever you can tie energetically, emotionally, and conceptually together into your world. So having these energies cleared for me was eye opening, and I had many experiences that led me to this experience. But the easiest way I can say is through meditation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And what about for you?
Well, well, for me, I really didn't identify with my feminine aspects, the feminine energy of myself. I believed I had this misinterpretation or misconception around the feminine energies, that the feminine energies were weak, they were invaluable, they didn't really get much done in this world. That I would be valued much more if I came across with more male energy, and that I put a much higher value on masculine energy than I did in feminine energy. And of course, when I was younger, I didn't even know that it was about the energies. For me, I just thought, oh, well, it seems that, men in this world get a lot more respect. So I need to act more like a man or do things more like a man, and act less like a woman. And this really was a source of a lot of my pain, actually, growing up. And I had a very difficult time um, identifying or feeling comfortable with being a woman, like in my body. I'll get into it later on, in like to what I don't think I've ever talked about on my channel, but it was a moment in time where I really was disconnecting from my body as a woman. And someone on my channel recently left a comment, which I thought was very interesting. I don't know if it's true or not, but that, one of the reasons why so many of us have difficulties identifying with our body, in the sense of, what the energies mean for that, is because the last incarnation we had was the opposite gender that we're in this body now, and so we're having a hard time readjusting into this new gender, and we're wanting to go back to what we knew so comfortable in the last lifetime. I don't know if that's true, but I thought that was an interesting point to bring up, and definitely worth looking into. Definitely a possibility, but it wasn't until my very early 30s where I took like a 1 year sabbatical off work and started to just travel by myself to Costa Rica, that I through a 10-day silent meditation retreat in the Costa Rican jungle, is when I had a shift in my perception. And that's when things changed for me. It wasn't anything outside of me, it was everything within me. And as soon as my perception started to shift more into the feminine energies of allowance, compassion, being willing to be open to new things, new ideas, that's when things really started to shift for me, and I started to have different experiences, and I started to realize how little I had valued my feminine aspects, and how it was literally destroying all of my opportunities that I had available to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I too, I had a, similar with suppressing all those emotions, right? And it's because the emotions are such an amazing energy once you can control them, right? If they're out of control, they're as bad out of control as not in like, using it or not using it. You want to have a balance within all of your chakra systems. So for me, I was always suppressing that, and it wasn't until I awoke into the idea that I have to use these energies. And then once I understood that, I started working with them. And then once you start working with them, you're able to use them throughout life, which is where we're at now, right? Really, and we're in this awakening phase in our existence. So, what you were just talking about in our previous lives, we come into this existence. We have multiple lives, right? So we have reincarnations, and we're in this universe, which is one verse of the multiverse, and this universe is based on polarity. It's based on oscillation, right? A vibration is an oscillation, and we measure that oscillation through frequency. But oscillation is dualistic expression, right? Yeah, male, female, good, bad, hot, cold. That is vibration, right? So we have many lives as females and many lives as males throughout all of our existence as our soul journeys through this amazing universe. But it's really about balancing here and now, right? I mean, where are we now? Those masculine and feminine energies are as predominant in this life as they were in the previous life, and as they're going to be in our future lives. So the key thing is to balance them now, because it's always about the present moment. Once you start working in the now, this is where the magic happens. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about tomorrow or yesterday. It's really about now, because those energies, no matter where you're at in this universe, are going to always be here and predominant. So it's very, very important to always be present with those energies and understand how to balance those. So, what are some of the the misconceptions about the masculine and feminine energies?
Well, a lot of problems that people face when they're trying to um, execute or discover, first discover and then execute their the what their purpose is here in life, but also um, finding that happiness within. Um, it's there's a lot of wounded aspects of the masculine and feminine energies that people are stuck in, and they don't understand that there are healthy or wild aspects of the masculine feminine, how those energies were actually intended to be from the energies of creation. But then there are the wounded aspects when they've gone through trauma, they've gone through pain, they're not in balance. So maybe we can talk about the wounded aspects of masculine and feminine so that people can get an idea of where they can identify, because I think learning how to identify the energies is really important. A lot of people don't seem to understand all of them, and it's of course with the misconception of what that actually means when it comes to gender, it gets very confusing, and the confusion is actually done on purpose. We
Mm-hmm.
see this in our world right now. There's a lot of confusion being done about gender. We're going to talk about gender neutrality, gender suppression, all that later on, what that actually means, why that's coming to the forefront right now in our society, and how that impairs our ability to come into union properly. But maybe, Jason, do you want to bring up
Yep,
the
I have
wounded?
it up. Yep, it's up now.
Okay. So basically, let's see here. I actually can't see it. So,
Do you have your phone on you? Maybe you can just look at the live feed on the phone.
okay, let me see here. Um, no. Let me go into. Do you want to just talk about them for a second while I open it up?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting you have these the masculine qualities and then the wounded energies and criticism, abuse, avoidance. And that's like for me, like I was saying, like the avoidance of these emotional experiences that I had, I suppressed so deeply that I was in complete avoidance. So if someone would come around me, like um, when I was growing up, a girlfriend who was really emotional, I would be like, get away from me. I couldn't deal with it until later on in life I understood that, and I have to say, my wife's and my relationship is amazing now. Once I understood the emotional bodies of her and myself, and females have the menstrual cycle, right? The moon cycle, and the moon pulls on the emotions. So when they have this menstrual cycle, the emotions get pulled on. And it wasn't until my wife and I started really diving deep into the understanding of how the celestial bodies are affecting us when they're in different positions that I was able to gain the understanding of how beautiful the emotions were. Because when we first got together, I was younger and she was younger. When she would get emotional, I'd be like, "What's the matter? What's going on? Like, calm down. Get back to the you last week. Like, what's the matter? What's going on?" I couldn't comprehend it. And then once we started looking at it every single month and seeing what's happening and seeing how these energies of the celestial bodies pull on our emotional bodies, it wasn't until then that I understood how important the emotions are, because I have suppressed them for so long. And I used to, honestly, I would say, I don't want emotions at all. I don't like cold stone. Just be cold stone. Don't show any emotions at all, until I understood this moon cycle with my wife, and it was an eye opener. So I no longer am suppressing or avoiding my own emotions. I let them come up.
All
You know.
right. Well, let's talk about these emotions.
Mm.
So if,
Yeah.
everyone's looking at this, the yin yang, and to the left we have the feminine qualities, the feminine aspects. If you look down, so in general, the feminine is all about your receptivity. It's a very passive energy, because it's allowing, and it's also when the energies are going inward, so it's contractive. It's where we, all of us get our intuition from. It's from our feminine aspects. And so every time that you're feeling the need to go inward, that's you connecting with your feminine energies. Now, where a lot of people are when it comes to their wounded feminine is that they're in the victim mode. So anytime you're playing the victim, you are in the wounded aspects of your feminine, and the wounded aspects of that victim mentality, that victim archetype, has this, the neediness, the codependency. You're oversensitive, you're over emotional. And so what happens with a lot of women when they, if especially, and I shouldn't even just say women because it's men too, but it's something that we, I guess, identify more with women, is that this over emotional oversensitivity means that you are in your wounded feminine. So if you're anyone who finds yourself going into these aspects more and more, you now know that you're in a wounded aspect, which means you haven't yet healed certain parts of you that need attention. They need healing. And so what happens is you'll see, and I'm just going to, for the sake of just keeping it simplistic, I'm going to use like a woman here. Women tend to be more emotionally manipulative. And so when you are manipulating through your emotions, you are in wounded feminine. Now, men can do that, men do that, but I'm just, for the sake, we understand that we see it a lot more, that women do tend to do that. And also women are very withholding. And I'm totally, I did this all the time in my past relationships where, so, I mean, you can get down to women will withhold sex if they're upset about something with their partner or their husband or, whoever it may be. Women will withhold speaking. They become silent if they're trying, and which is a very passive aggressive energy. And so it's also this idea of believing that you're powerless. If you really don't believe you have a power when you're in your feminine energy, you are in the victim aspect. So when we go over to the masculine side, which is the masculine side, is all about giving. Okay, it's the part that goes outward. It's our energy that we put out into the world. So as the feminine is all the energy that we take inwards, the masculine energy is what we give out to the world, and it's expansive and it's active and it's everything that we project outwards. So when we're in the wounded masculine, it's known as the perpetrator archetype. And so when we're confrontational, when we're overly critical, when we're abusive, whether it's physically abusive, mentally abusive, like verbally abusive, avoiding things, men, like the old stereotype of men were very typical of, avoiding things, not pretending like, that they're not there. That's very much wounded masculine. There's a dominating aspect when you're in wounded masculine. You feel need to be dominant over another person or something else. You are in your wounded aspect of masculine. Aggression aggression in a negative way, because I don't think that there's anything wrong with being aggressive in a sense of going after what you want, but aggression in an unhealthy way where it's becoming hurtful now, not just to you, but perhaps others. It's also the competitive aspect of the wounded masculine. I also want to say that I believe that there is such a thing as healthy competition. I believe that it is part of our drive to want to do better. But it's when your competitiveness is driving your how you do things in the world, how you seek things out. That's when things start to get a little bit murky, and you start to find yourself more in the wounded aspects of the masculine. And of course, if you're trying to control things, this is a very wounded aspect. You're not, you feel that without you putting in all your effort and making things exactly the way you want, and if anything were to go astray from that, that is a wounded masculine energy. Now, again, women and men have the wounded masculine, and women and men have the wounded feminine. And it's understanding where you are in these aspects at any given moment in time will completely be a game changer for you. It'll be a complete game changer for you because your awareness is the greatest alchemy there is. It allows you to transform and completely transmute the situation into something else that you know is better for you. So having awareness about what these wounded aspects are is what allowed me to completely transcend a lot of my traumas and old behavioral issues that I was tending to fall into, like they were reactionary, and allow me to heal some of those so that I'm not falling back into those patterns. But also, I mean, we're all human. We're bound to fall into wounded masculine and feminine at any given time because that's just the law of polarities.
Oh yeah.
So the trick is understanding, okay, having that awareness and knowing when you're there and knowing exactly what it is so that you know how to get into the wild aspects or the natural aspects or the healthy aspects of your masculine and feminine. And those things are so important to understand. Understanding that, when you are in your feminine energy, you are more understanding. There is like, you're okay to be still. It's this knowing that your power comes from the unconditional love, the tenderness, the feelings, that your feelings actually, when they're in balance and they're not going to the extreme of being overexpressed or not expressed at all, that when they're in their healthy state, you can actually use your feelings to completely drive your manifestation potential. Also understanding your intuition is part of your feminine energy, and our intuition is so important with not looking outside of ourselves for the answers, looking inward and having the intuitive knowing that A, you're not alone, B, that everything you need is within inside you, and that you have an internal GPS that is guiding you here through this lifetime. And that's all within our feminine aspects. It's how we nurture ourselves. It's how we surrender. Surrender was a huge lesson for me when I had to reconnect with my feminine energy because I didn't know how to surrender. I thought surrender meant weakness, and it is absolutely not. Surrender can be one of the most powerful states of being that you go into to achieving what you want. Now, for the wild masculine or the natural masculine, this is when you're confident, okay? And this again is male and female. When you are in your natural aspects of masculine energy, when you are channeling that energy, you are confident, you know where you need protection, you know how to protect what is rightfully yours, you know how to protect your space, you know how to protect your feminine aspects, okay? The masculine is all about protecting, and the masculine aspects actually have to protect our feminine aspects within. So it's really important. When you're also in your masculine, you have clarity about things. You have the courage to challenge your fears. You have the courage to go and try new things. You're focused, so you know how to focus on something and get things done. There's a lot of, you know how to build stability and structure around yourself so that you're well supported. Having that support is so important in how we actually achieve things in the physical realm here. And when you have these two aspects of our feminine and masculine energies working within their wild aspects, are now able to do this beautiful dance of synergy to work coherently with one another to basically project out into your external world everything that you know you're deserving of, everything that you've ever dreamed of, all your hopes and dreams and desires can actually come manifest because you united your internal environment of energy and now can project that into your external world.
Yeah, that was well said. Absolutely amazing. Very well said. Because our intuitions, like, getting back into the intuitions of the feminine aspect, for me, that was something that I suppressed for a very long time, right? It was my intuition because it comes from the emotions, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at our chakra systems, our bellies, they say our gut instinct, right? That gut instinct, that voice inside of your head, that's your intuition. And it's
Mm-hmm.
so in each one of us, like you're saying, each one of us has that guidance. But if our energy centers are not cleared out, we kind of just pass by them and say, ah, that's nothing. Let's keep going, you know? But once those energies are all clear by doing cleaning, right? Doing
Yeah.
meditations, you're able to hear that voice very, very clearly. It's as if your higher self is right next to you talking, and all you have to do is listening. Just listen, and the guidance is always there. Just like we take guidance from our friends and our families, right? We have a situation in our life. What do? We call somebody up. Oh, what should I do? What's going on? We're taking guidance from our friends and family where the guidance of the universe is right inside of you. And once we start understanding that it's through our intuition that taps into our higher self, that we can ask a question, be still, listen, and receive the answer. The answers are
Well,
always there. Always.
yeah. And this is the problem. I don't know if you want to take off the
Oh,
picture
sure.
now.
Yeah.
But this is a good segue into this is a great segue into the confusion of the energies and how when and let's segue into like gender neutrality and gender suppression
Yeah.
because that's a huge topic right now. And
Yeah.
most people believe that if we're going to become one, if we're going to unite, that we must neutralize all the energies and pretend they don't exist
Yeah.
and just make them one fluid energy. And I mean, you hear the term gender fluidity and all of this, and it's actually, I've got to say this, and I know not everyone will agree with me, but I'm going to say it because we have to say it. We have to talk about it. If we don't talk about this with open minds, we don't get to learn from one another and learn how to move forward with a deeper understanding of what's actually going on.
Right.
So to me, this is an attack on our masculine and feminine energies because we're being misled that if you relate more to a masculine or a feminine energy, that is somehow bad
Yeah.
and that you should be gender neutral or that there should be no genders at all or there should be 1,000 genders. And it's so confusing. And what this does is it takes people away from what the real truth is and and how you use these energies to your ability to how you use them to your own best potential. And
Yeah.
so when we're trying to neutralize something, what we're doing is we're taking the power away from both the masculine and the feminine. We're pretending like their creative energies are inconsequential and that we don't need them, and that the only way to unite is to kind of like blur all the lines and absolutely have them come as one. And that's couldn't be further from the truth. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it, Jason?
No, that's all, but it's all being done by design, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there is a control structure that has taken place over the last 13,000 years, for good reason. But this control structure wants to keep suppressing and suppressing and suppressing because guess what? The power lies in the individual, and if the individual feels powerless, guess who has the power, right? The one that the individual is looking towards, because it's not, the power is not out there. The power is in here. So if they keep on taking these energies and conducing them down into meaningless, nothingness, or everybody has to be the same, right? Because
Yeah.
sameness is oneness. No, that's like you're saying, it's absolutely not the truth. There is energies here, and we have to understand how each one of these vibrational frequencies work within us. We are not just one thing. We are a multitude of amazing things and experiences and vibrations and frequencies. And we have to understand how to use all of these aspects within inside of ourselves and not suppress them. Because when you suppress them, you can't use them because you don't even know they exist. And that's where we're at today. People are walking around today and have no idea what life is even about, or the meaning, or the purpose. The purpose is being stripped. The values are being stripped from each one of us. And no one's going internal because everybody's still looking external for their answers, right? They're watching the news, they're listening to the media, right? And whose story are we listening to, right? Like, what is television? It's tell-a-vision. Whose vision? Is it your vision? No. You're buying into
Yeah.
these stories, and we're thinking, oh, like this whole gender neutral thing. It's amazing because it just came out not too long ago, and now all of a sudden, people are like, oh, my kid's room is going to be gender neutral. You know, they can't be too feminine or too masculine. It's going to be neutral, which is
And and this is the thing. It's like kids don't know anything
yeah,
about gender.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't know about our perceptions. We're projecting it all onto them. And that's
yeah,
where I start to have an issue with this, is that before these kids are even allowed to form an opinion on their own, we're already projecting all these ideas onto them that they would have never associated with had we left that out.
yeah,
And the reality is that you know the the reason why, and of course there are exceptions to the rules, this is a general statement, this isn't for everyone, but the reason why girls tend to gravitate, I'm just going to use colors for instance, girls tend to gravitate more towards pink and boys towards blue, is because that's a natural thing. It's not because we're actually the society projecting on it. If you look back in history, go back like many, many, many years, hundreds of years, where men used to wear pink all the time,
mm-hmm,
and so
yeah,
it was actually like a color associated with men.
yeah,
And so now, and so there's this idea of like, why do we keep putting the focus on things outside of us? It's a freaking color. Who
yeah,
gives a crap, right?
yeah,
It doesn't really matter. Just let people choose what they want, and but not like we have to be very aware of what we're projecting out there already. And this idea of like creating gender neutral colors, it's like, okay, well now all of a sudden pink and blue are out of the color scheme of gender neutrality and every other color is okay. And it's like, well, at some point then we're going to start realizing that, oh, we're not choosing the pink or blue as much anymore, so now we need to add that back in. And it's this constant like going in and out of the extremes, and it all comes from within.
yeah,
And this is the whole thing, is if we keep focusing on the outside stuff, we never get to the inside stuff. And the inside
yeah,
stuff, when you bring that all into harmony, all that other stuff doesn't matter. Colors doesn't matter. What kind of clothes you wear, it doesn't matter. All of that stuff becomes just your own personal preference when you start doing the work within. But what this idea of blurring the lines is a very big misconception of the energies. When the masculine and feminine are in union, their lines are not blurred. They
right,
are completely within their own individual energies, but they're doing this beautiful dance that's weaving in and out of one another, and they're completely timed. It's like this most synchronized dance that you could ever imagine. But the lines are not blurred. They do not lose their essence. In fact, they enhance one another's essence through this synergy. And that's where this gender neutrality starts to break everything down, is that we start to blur the lines and you lose your own individuality. And that's this idea of like, we talk about unity and becoming one, and we're, the law of one, and all of that is true. But it doesn't mean that you sacrifice your own individuality
mm-hmm,
to become one with everyone. You are already one with everything.
yes,
Your own as an individual, you can't separate any separation that you believe there is. It's all your perception. And so we have to really address more of the deeper aspects so that this confusion is not constantly bombarded on us.
yeah. And just real quick on oneness for people who want a little bit of quick, deeper understanding. If you look at quantum physics, right? Quantum physics talks about this thing called entanglement. meaning that once one particle is together and it's split, it becomes two particles. Those two particles are always connected. Okay, so what they did is they took a particle, a photon, they split it in half, they sent it in two opposite directions. Anything that they did to the one over here that was 20 miles away, this one instantaneously changed. Meaning, everything that exists comes from a unified particle, right? A unified wave of expression. Meaning we are all one in that aspect of consciousness. We are all awareness. We are all consciousness. That's the oneness. But the colorfulness of the spectrum of all the vibrational frequencies gives us our uniqueness within oneness. And it's not about suppressing all these different aspects of ourselves to say, oh, we're all one. You know, we're all one no matter what, because we all come from the universal source, right? Some people may call it whatever they want to call it, but there is a universal principle in which all things come from. And quantum physics, like I said, call it entanglement. So once two particles are entangled, they're entangled forever. They're forever one. So everything that exists comes from the one particle, meaning we are forever one. So we don't have to think that being an individual is bad. We have to really come into our individuality and express it no matter what it is, right? So it doesn't matter if it's pink, blue. All we're talking about are colors of the visible light spectrum, just a vibrational frequency, right? It's just a little sliver in the electromagnetic spectrum. So it's funny how we can take this small little concept of masculine and feminine, right, and make it based on our gender, where it's each one of us has this within us and you can't escape it. Doesn't matter if you're the most manliest man or the womanliest woman, you can't escape that you have both of these energies within us. Because at that we all are one. So we have to understand, how do we balance this? How do we balance them? And this is where I feel most people that I talk to, this is where they fail. Because they don't want to understand or, express their masculine energies if they're a female, or feminine if they're a man. This is where everybody's kind of like getting to this idea, because we have been trained, we have been conditioned to live in this environment in a certain way. But we have to break free of that. If we want to really get to the point where we can manifest our worlds, we have to take ownership of our own energies and stop giving our energies away. And it all starts with identifying with how you're feeling. First and foremost, how are you feeling and why are you feeling like that? And if it's somebody else creating that feeling within you, it's not them. It's you, because you're giving them the power. It doesn't matter what I say to you. If you don't accept what I say, you don't give me power. But if you accept what I say, you are then giving me power. Just like we give our power away to the news and to the medias, we're giving all of our energy away, because the energy of the universe comes from within you. And you are the projector into this reality. And the more you buy into all these concepts that are not serving your highest potential, then you're just going to keep on falling into these pitfalls. Poor self-esteem. What is that? It means that you looking at yourself and you don't feel that you're good enough, like you were saying earlier. You are good enough. You are here. You're in existence, which is amazing. I mean, if you think of this human body that we're in, right, where we are inhabiting for the next 100 years, however long we're here, this piece of technology is incredible. We're in it for so long, we kind of take it for granted. We're like, oh yeah, this is my body. I can just walk around and beat it up. But if you think of how many functions the liver does, right? You're talking like 5,000 functions. How the eardrum actually produces sound and turns it into electrical impulses that go into our brain, and how our brain turns that into a signal that we can create a thought out of. And how all the neurological connections going through the synapses of our mind give us a picture, right? This thing is amazing. And it's filled with power and energy. And we have to understand how to use those powers and energies within us and not suppress us and give all our power away. And that's where a lot of people are today, is they're giving their powers away.
Yeah, and I mean, and one of the easiest ways, the one that's happening the most right now is the feminine energy of victimhood is being really pushed on people right now, especially through media. And that's this idea of being offended by anything and everything. Yeah. With so many, and I've done at least one or two videos on this. Jeremy McDonald and I did a video on this like about a year and a half ago. I don't know if Jeremy's watching, but hi, Jer. You know, as someone who grew up very emotional, my whole family was over emotional. My whole family was sensitive. I mean, you couldn't get through a dinner without one of our family members bursting into tears crying, okay? And it was just like everyone was responsible for everyone else's feelings. And this idea of being offended is one of the quickest ways you give away your power. It is the quickest ways you leave your emotional sovereignty. And that's what the media is pushing this on us right now, is to get us out of our emotional sovereignty and to be offended and enraged by anything and everything that's out there. If you're not enraged about something, then you must not care enough. And that's the lie. Yeah. This is how it's pushed on us and perpetrated on us, is that if you aren't enraged or outraged about something or offended by something, then you don't care. And that could be further from the truth. You can care about a lot of things and still maintain your emotional sovereignty. And so when you find yourself, this is a great way to understand when you've been taken into wounded feminine, is that if you just got offended by someone, you've given your power away, because now they have control over your emotions, and it is on them to give you your emotional power back. Yeah. And the only way that you can actually recover it back is if you realize that person, whatever they said, it has nothing to do with you. And it's usually a projection of their own pain, if it was something really hurtful, or, you know, it's something that needed to trigger something in you. You know, oftentimes people are mirrors for us. And if you are getting triggered by stuff, that's usually a sign that there's healing needed in that area. So for everyone who's watching, I just wanted to say that because it's so prominent right now in our world, that there's so much push on being offended and on the outrage culture, is that it's meant to take you out of your healthy feminine aspect, where all of the creativity and your intuition and your supportive nature, all of that great stuff that really starts to feed the initial energies of creation, the conception phase of everything that you do, take you out of that healthy aspect and put you into the wounded aspect, so that you're not creating from a very high frequency place. You're now in the lower frequencies of where the wounded feminine is.
Yeah. And also too, what they're doing is they're giving you ideas, right? Where they're going to make you go into emotional phase. And when you go into an emotional phase, you then react. But what are you reacting on? Right? You're reacting on something that was given to you, and you're giving your emotion, which is your power, all that energy out into that expression or that experience and whatever you're being shown, right? So it's understood how to use an individual's energies by invoking the emotions, because it's all through the emotions that the power comes from. Mm-hmm. And it's really about balancing that. So real quick, if I can just show a quick picture of the chakra system inside of us, right? So for those of you who don't know what chakra systems are, right? A chakra is an energetic vortex within our bodies. And then there are many different vortexes within us, but there's 7 major chakras, right? So you have your 3 upper chakras, 3 lower chakras, and your 1 at the middle. And the reason why I say it like that is there's 7, but if you look at the top 3, those are intellectual chakras. You have your crown chakra, your third eye, and your throat. They all have to do with communication, right? You speak through your throat. You see with your eyes. Your third eye is how you see into the higher realms, into your dream states. And your access into your dream states is through your crown chakra. And then you look at your 3 lower chakras, right? You have your sacral chakra, which is your sexual chakra, your feeling chakra. Then you have your root chakra, which is your ground-based chakra, right? And then you have your solar plexus, which is your energy chakra. So your 3 lower chakras are your emotions. So that's where your intuition sits, right? Your intuition sits in your gut. And recently, within the last 10 years, Dr. Gundry came out and says, hey, there's actually a brain inside of our guts, meaning that it has its own neurological connections that are not being derived from the brain. They have their own connections, their own neurological, I think it's like 100 billion neurons inside of our gut, showing that there is a neurological connection that's happening there. And now HeartMath is saying, hey, there is 50 million neurons in our heart. So our brain has a neurological connection, our guts have its own neurological connection, and our hearts have their own neurological connection. These centers that are within us, these 3 major centers, When they come together, our intellectual, which is the masculine energy, right? And then our feminine energy, which is our emotions and our feelings, our three lower chakras, meet at our heart. They express our reality. They create our world, our experience, our perspective, our perceptions. So it's very, very important to have a clean channel for these energies to flow through. As they move through your intellectual chakras, move up from your emotional chakras, and they meet at your heart to give you the ability to project your energy into the world. Remember, this is your energy. Now, if I feed you an idea and attack your emotions and get you all emotional, right? So if you look at the news, what the news does very good is it promotes fear. Fear is a very good motivator. Why? Because fear is where it's the emotional, right? So when you go into that fear, your emotions take over, but your frontal cortex shuts down. You can't think when you're in fear. The fight or flight comes in, you can no longer think, but your emotions are still in control. So what's happening is they control by fear. And if they get you in fear, guess what you do? You talk about all day the thing that you didn't like in the first time you heard it. So for instance, the news talks about someone killing someone, right? And how they killed them was they did this. And it's like, oh my God. Your emotions are struck up with that. And that experience at that point in time was traumatic to even hear that. Like, oh, it's crazy. How'd that even happen? And then what happens is the rest of the day, you're saying, hey, did you hear what happened on the news? And then you're going, your whole emotional experience is talking about the thing you didn't want to hear in the first place. So you're giving your whole entire day is spent giving all this emotional power away instead of creating with that power. Because if you were to take that same exact power, which is emotions and your thoughts, and have a clean channel and connect into your heart, you can then be creative. And don't worry about what's happening in the world. Worry about what's happening here in front of you now and how much energy you're putting into you, because you are so amazing. You are so important and you are so powerful. If we can just stop giving away our energy into this nonsensical meaning, it makes no sense to give our energies to these fear-based systems any longer, right? I mean, it's really take back your power. What you put in here is what you put out here. What you put out here is coming from down here. So make sure what you're putting in is good, because what you're going to spit out, it's going to be your power. What are you giving your power to? Are you bringing more blessings into your life, or are you feeding the machine? I mean, it's completely up to you. But your power is your emotions. And the intellectual chakras, these three higher chakras, are our access to the higher realms. So where do thoughts come from? Think about it. You have 80,000 thoughts a day. Where do they come from? Now, you can have 80,000 thoughts pass through you, but a thought doesn't become a reality until you tie an emotion to it. Once you tie an emotion to it, boom, it becomes your reality. For instance, I had a panic attack probably about 4 years ago. And I never had any problems previous with panic attacks, and I had this panic attack, and I was actually going up on stage to do a presentation, and I got up on stage, and right before I got up on stage, I had a thought: what happens if you mess up? And I'm like, that's stupid, right? So anyway, I get up on stage, and that thought pops into my head again. Now, nothing changed. I'm on stage like I'm always on stage, doing what I'm doing, and all of a sudden that thought comes in. I have an emotion tied to it. Once that emotion came up and hit my throat, I felt, in that moment, my brain shut down, fight or flight kicks in, you can no longer think, and the emotion took over. I completely went into a full-blown panic attack. And what changed in my environment? Nothing. The only thing that changed is a thought that I tied an emotion to, and it created my whole entire reality, my whole entire experience. My body shut down because of this emotional attack that happened because of a thought. And this is exactly what's happening all around us when we're suppressing these masculine and feminine energies within us. They're shutting down our ability to manifest in this reality because we're giving all of our creative power away to the structure that doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. What serves you is you and taking back these powers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to kind of go into how we can guide people into manifesting, their ultimate potential. Like how to use these energies now to their greatest degree.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, if you understand that, and I say this just for the simplicity's sake, though, so please don't take it so literal, but the feminine energy is your conception phase, and the masculine energy is the gestation, is half of the gestation and birthing phase.
Yeah.
Okay, it's when you put it out into the world. And so everything starts with the feminine energy. So, if you have been suppressing your emotions throughout your life, if you haven't been paying attention to that inner voice that's, always there, if you're willing to listen, if you haven't been paying attention to all that, then you're not able to really tune into that feminine aspect where everything is started. It's your conception point. So if you have an idea, if you have, or if you don't even know what your ideas are, oftentimes going into meditation is a great place to start for receiving information. You want to go into receiving mode. You want to go into surrender mode, where you surrender your control over things and you just allow things to come in. When I say meditation, not everyone resonates with meditation. You could just be still. You could be silent and be in nature. You could be walking out in nature. Whatever it is that really kind of allows you to go inward, this is how you start to tap into your feminine energies. You really want to bring in a supportive, nurturing aspect. So are you nurturing yourself? This is how you feed your feminine energies. This is how you spark them into their power. And understanding that this idea of unconditional love is one of the cornerstones of feminine energy. And when you can tune into those energies and allow them to all come forth, this is where the conception point starts to really take off. This is where the magic really starts to happen. And you nurture it. You have to nurture it through, whatever is your passion. If you get excited about that, use your emotions, use your feminine aspect, the emotions to start driving that conception that's starting to happen. Whatever it's the idea that's being conceived, it's a feeling that's being conceived, it's an image that's being conceived. Whatever it is, you really want to bring your emotions in to feed it, to really start nurturing it. So if you think about like a mother and baby, that how you bring more life into it is you feed it, you nurture it, you hold it, you let it know it's safe. All of these things are so important for you in the feminine aspect of your energy. And when you finally have tapped into the creative aspects and you've got like this beautiful vision, or you have this knowing or idea, and you now want to bring it into the world and you'd like to see it actually manifest, you now have to execute your masculine energy. And your masculine energy means you need to put structure around it. It means that you need to have some courage to go out and do some of the things necessary to bring that forth. It doesn't mean that when you have this idea that because if you're especially this is a common mistake in the spiritual community, that they believe that if they just meditate on something for hours a day and they constantly put their focus into it, that it'll just happen in life. To a degree it can, but that's not the full completion, and you're not honoring the masculine aspects of energy and creation to bring it into its full potential. And so you need to move into action-oriented outward motion. And so how do you take that idea and do things that support it in the actual physical world? So is it making a list? Do you need to put out a to-do list and start ticking off things that you need to do to get something done, or to help birth it into reality? You definitely want to put the structure around it so that it has a good framework to work within. And you also want to have a good idea of focus. You don't want to be scattered. See, scattered is the feminine energy. It's abstract, and that's where that energy is really good. You can just have no lines. You have no You have no rules, so to speak. You could just like brainstorm. That's the idea of brainstorming, it's a creative process. That is good in the feminine energy. But when it comes to executing, you have to have focus, you have to have a plan, you have to have structure, and you have to start taking action. That is how you start to assist the full manifestation coming in, because that saying, like, God only helps those who help themselves, you have to show the universe that you want it. And the best way to show the universe you want it is through your deeds. Okay, it's through your actions. And this is one of the most important steps to completing the entire gestation phase of the conception point to the birthing process of whatever it is that you're trying to manifest.
Yeah, and I feel like you were saying, one of the most important things we could do is set goals, set like, well, masculine, right? So it's like the idea of making lines, right? Feminine's more of a circle, masculine's more of a line. So, but setting aside time every single day for you, right? Setting aside time for what it is you desire in this reality, right? Creating a routine. Routine is so important. It's rhythm. Rhythm creates energy. Habits create our experiences, right? If it's all through our habitual experiences that we're able to get into the subconscious mind and really bring into what we want. It's all through habit. So we have to create a routine and stick with that. Be like you said, it doesn't have to be meditation of lying down, but going for a walk, exercising. You can meditate and exercise at the same time, getting into that zone. It's like a trance state. When you're in that trance state, you're in direct communication with your higher self. So setting those goals and sticking to a routine every single day. People have routines today, right? They watch their favorite shows every Tuesday, every Wednesday. That's a routine. That is a routine. But what are you doing for yourself? In that moment, you're just creating mind chatter to talk about. You're not really diving deep into the emotions and pulling in from the infinite and expressing that into your experience. You're just bringing in information and regurgitating that. Mm-hmm. Where you have a creative ability that is within inside of you that is so amazing, and yet it's untapped in most people. So really, to tap into that, you have to set aside time for you every single day and work on what it is you want to experience, right? I mean, that's the key to really to manifest something, is really routine and continuous application of thought and emotions being put into a specific direction. That direction is something that you desire. Those desires are brought to you by putting your energy, which is your vibrational frequency, into that mold, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And so people understand this, there is such a thing as manifestation luck, in a sense of we all have natural gifts. There are certain things that we're all just naturally really good at that we don't actually have to think about. They just naturally happen. So for instance, I naturally am a really good visual person. Like, I can visualize things, and because I understand the power of emotions, I can manifest things. I should say, I was through my 20s and early 30s, I was able to manifest things really quickly, partially like without even really trying. And that you'll realize that many of you probably have a certain aspect of that. There's a certain part of you that is just a natural gift. It's really easy for you to tap into. You don't have to work at it. And certain things come to you quite easily. But if you really want to take it to a whole new level and level up your manifestation and really create everything that you want on your terms, then you have to understand, you really want to get familiar with what it means to be in your feminine energy and what it means to be in your masculine energy, and when is the right time to be in your feminine energy, when is the right time to be in your masculine energy, where do those strengths really fall within your life, and also understand, like, if something's not happening, if something feels like it's out of balance, you now can take a look. You have the awareness now to take a look within you and say, okay, where am I? Where am I breaking down in this manifestation process? Where is it all breaking down for me? And you can, if something's really gone awry, then you need to go right back to the beginning. You have to go right back to the conception point and start all over again. Because the only way to change an energy is to go to the 0 point. And to go to the 0 point, you have to go back to the conception point. And so understanding where you starting learning how to identify yourself within the energies will be a huge tool for you in how you build the life that you really want to build, create, whether it's a business or a job or just a passion, whether it's a project, maybe you want to bring in certain people into your life, you want to build healthier relationships, whatever it is that you want to manifest right now, you really need to understand the energies first individually and then know how they work in synergy together. And that's why blending the energies, blurring the lines doesn't work. It absolutely disables you from understanding. You need to first understand the energies individually and then be able to bring them together. And that's just a rule for anything in life, in how we, like, for instance, I have to understand myself fully before I can even go out and help others outside of me, you know? And so when we understand this aspect, then we can honor the feminine aspects of ourselves and the masculine aspects and see how they each individually have their own unique power, and then how they work together in harmony to unify, bring it into the 0 point so that you jump into that timeline where you're now manifesting it into your reality.
Yeah, that's a very succinct and beautiful way of putting it. It's very good. Very good. So if anybody out there has any questions, just ask in the chat, and Nicole and I would love to answer your questions. So Nicole and I both have courses that we created. Mine's called The Soul's Dream, and it's about understanding our construct. It's about understanding the matrix and how we can use the energy inside of the matrix. And Nicole's course is?
Harmonizing the masculine feminine energies.
Yeah, so we in the description below is free gifts for you guys, so you guys can access that information from there. So just go in there and sign up, and there's some really, really cool stuff in there to help assist you with blending these energies, because it's so important for you to come into application, into action, because at this point no one's going to do it for you, really. It's up to you. You have to take ownership of this energy, and if you don't, you can keep on giving it away, and guess what, you can pick up where you left off in your next life, because it's going to happen. It's cyclical. The energy is cyclical. But if you start today blending these energies and really tapping into your emotional states and your intellectual states and blending them into your feeling inside of your heart, you can really make drastic changes in your life and everyone around you. Because remember, once you change yourself, you change everything around you. Because everything around you is truly energy, and it's through your perception, through your perspective, that you're seeing the energy. So once you change, everything changes. The people that were bringing you down are no longer around. The people that are bringing you up seem to be all around you. Why? Because you become a matched vibration. Now when we're talking about energy and vibrations and frequencies and resonance, what's resonance? Resonance is a match vibration. So if you take a tuning fork and you hit a tuning fork that's in the key of C against the table and then put it next to a guitar, the C chord is going to ring because it's a match vibrational frequency. That's our life. Our life is all based on vibrations and frequencies, and we become matches to specific vibrational frequencies based on our base resonance. What are we resonating? What's our emotional and intellectual vibrational frequency? We are the source of our experiences. So balancing these energies within inside of ourselves allows the energy to flow freely and allows us to bring to us what we want. That's manifesting, right? If you were to look at the definition of manifesting, you're bringing from what into what? You're bringing from the infinite, the invisible, into the visible, an experience. So if you want a car, for instance, you start thinking about this car, and then all of a sudden you start doing research about the car. And then once you find the car that you want, you're looking at it 5 times a day, going over all the specifics and all the stats and all the stuff about the car, and all of a sudden you notice that car everywhere because you become a match resonating vibration to that experience, and you draw it into your collective consciousness, which is your ability to experience it. So it's so vitally important that you understand the difference between your own masculine and feminine energies. And it's not about gender. It's absolutely not about gender. This gender neutrality thing is about suppressing these energies in a very covert way. I mean,
Yes.
these control mechanisms that are in place, these individuals are very smart, and they're very smart for a reason, and they're doing what they're doing to only make you stronger. Because when you fall down and you learn from falling, that makes you very strong. And we have fell in consciousness. We have forgotten who we are, where we come from. We're just coming out of the dark ages, but we're awakening. The ascension is starting, and we're starting to awaken within us. We're eating the proper foods. We're doing the meditations. We're doing all this stuff. Everything around us is starting to change. But it's up to you now to take the initiative to really jump into it. And you know this for yourself. You know what I'm talking about. You know, if you want to go to the gym, you have to set aside time every day and go to the gym. If you want to do yoga and be flexible, you have to do it every day. You can't do it once a week and expect good results. Nothing works like that. Absolutely nothing works like that. It's all about routine and repetition. And you are going to make you the routine. You are the most important part of your life. So it's so important to have good self-talk. We love helping people, right? That's like you were saying before about the masculine energy that likes to project, right? And exert energy. We love to exert our energy and help so many people. We love to give them our words of wisdom. But if you can't help yourself, the most important aspect of your existence, then really, who are you helping? Take care of you. Take care of your home. That's your body. And then sharing that wisdom with everyone else will be very, very, very simple. It'll just be second nature. You'll just talk in the right words, and the vibrations will just flow through you without even thinking about it, because you then become a channel of the higher energies that are flowing through you. And whatever you say in that moment, the individual you're speaking to is exactly what they need to hear. And it's not a conceptual thought of, oh, I heard this on the TV or I've seen this on the news. It's just a flow of energy that's coming through you, manifesting into your reality. You have any questions?
Okay.
All right, so we have some questions. So here we go. Go ahead. What do you got?
Okay. Spellbound Bear asks, Jason, what practices do you use in your daily routine?
What practices do I use in my daily routine? Meditation, yoga, and occasionally I'm working out. So I work out, and the days that I don't work out, I play ice hockey. So my daily routine now is waking up, either doing yoga right away or doing a meditation right away. And I don't just do a meditation where I am just zoning out, right? I do a meditation where I'm setting up my day of what I want to achieve that day. So I envision my whole entire day in the meditation. So I'm setting up what I want the universe to bring to me. And then I get into either my yoga or my work. But it's extremely important to do a meditation where you're not just zoning out. And for people who don't know how to meditate, Nicole has an amazing activation meditation that's in the description. And seriously, it's an awesome guided meditation that can help assist you. And all you have to do is wake up, turn on the meditation, put on your headphones or your earbuds, sit up, and enjoy the information. And what it's going to do, it's going to align these energies with inside of you and activate. It's an activation meditation. It's going to activate these aspects within inside of you so that you can experience this energy. And it's a very, very good meditation. I highly, highly recommend starting with that if you don't have your own routine or your own meditation that you do on a daily basis. It's a fantastic starting point. Anything else?
Yes. Lucia Torea says, hi, I have a question, Jason. Regarding number 7, you explained in the Soul Stream course how first 7 years mold us. And I keep hearing about a 7-year cycle. Can you clarify this, please? What 7 means?
Well, 7's a very important number, but the first 7 years of your life, you're very malleable, okay? like we were talking about earlier about the masculine and feminine energies, when you come in as a baby, right? Your nourishing comes from your environment, right? So if you look at epigenetics, right? Genetics are who you are, but epigenetics comes from your environment. And our environment is what shapes us the first 7 years of our lives. So we're very subjectable and susceptible. Subjectable? How do you say that word? Susceptible to the energies at that age. And that molds who you are. So the first 7 years, you imprint into your chakra systems. Like I was saying, when I was younger, I would cry and they'd be like, don't cry, you're a man. Men don't cry. That stuck with me the rest of my life because it implanted into my energy vortex systems, into my collective conscious, into my subconscious, and then that becomes a program that runs unconsciously. So my first 7 years of life, I was programmed to think certain ways, and that runs the rest of my life in the background, right? I'm not even thinking about these things. They just fire up automatically. Like, hey, you can't cry. Well, why are you crying? Like, don't cry. You nothing's wrong. But yet, I don't know what's going on with that person around me, and they're crying, and I couldn't handle it because I couldn't. When I was younger, I had suppressions of that energy, and that's why it's so important to go in there and clear those energies. Right? What do you think, Nicole, about the first 7 years of life, about how impressionable we are?
Oh my gosh, it's so important. It's so important. It's why, like, I think it's why a lot of people are starting to homeschool their kids now,
Yeah.
when they're younger, because you want to make sure that your child is getting, the right information, or isn't being confused in any ways.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever comes forth in those formative years, whether it's through your family, through institutions, through media, whatever it is. And when I say media, I mean, like, it could be like your cartoons and your little movies and things that you watch on TV or whatever it is as a child. All of these things shape you. I mean, I distinctly remember as a young girl, 6 years old, playing soccer. My father was the coach, and he would scream at me at 6 years old on the field until I was crying. And as soon as I would cry, he would yell, like, embarrass me and say, "Why are you crying?" And I was only 6. And
Yeah.
and it was like, I think he's very competitive. I have a very competitive family, and so his his idea of how important it is to win was more important than how I felt on the field, and what my emotional state was, and why I even had that emotional state. And so it was that kind of was imprinted on me, to the point where I would not cry then. I refused to cry growing up because I was shamed when I cried.
Yeah.
And so that's what really shut down my feminine energy. I'm not saying that specific instant, but that was one of the instances that contributed to me shutting down my feminine aspect. And of course, just using that example, when I reflect on that, I can see how I saw that my feminine energy was considered weak because my father got upset at me for expressing my feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that if I didn't want to be embarrassed, I needed to be strong. I needed to not show emotion. I needed to show that no one could affect me. And I needed to also, like, do a lot better in the world. I couldn't fail. Right. And so this drastic change into my masculine energy of, like, really needing to be all about achieving and completely suppressing my emotions was part of how I, like, it really was the foundation of everything I went through later on in life, until I kind of started to have my awakening and had this massive perception shift during a 10-day silent meditation retreat to, like, oh shoot, wow, I have not been nurturing myself. I have not been in a safe place for my entire life. I have not been tapping into my emotions properly. And it just, that completely, set the whole tone for my life, basically.
Yeah, it's so amazing how, like what you were saying, like your dad would yell at you and then you cry, right? That crying came out. It's interesting when we get emotional, right? How the tears flow through, and it's through the emotions that trauma happens, right? So if a traumatic experience happens, it's a high level of an emotion, right? And within that moment, you will never forget that experience. If you look back in your lives, right, and you look at traumatic experiences, you can vividly look at the whole entire experience and everything that was happening around it, before it happened, after it happened, the whole entire experience. But if you were to think about what your 7th grade teacher told you on July 14th, 1981, you'd be like, what the? But because there's no emotional attachment to it. The emotions are what sink into our experiences, into our subconscious, right? So when we're at that age, we're very vulnerable and our emotions are like wide open because we are in the creative process. Like kids are so creative because their energies are wide open. They don't have anything really closed off. They're like these energy vortexes are just absorbing. And then when something emotional, a traumatic emotional comes, that energy closes down and it seeps into our subconscious. And then the rest of our lives, we don't even know that it's there anymore. But it's not until you really dive deep into it and see what's holding you back from achieving that. And that's what we're talking about, opening up these energy blocks that are within inside of us that have happened from we were younger. And like for Nicole, like you went through that meditation, 8-day meditation. And it was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that was in there. There it is. That was one of the causes, right? And for me, I knew what mine were. But it's so important to go in and unblock these energies, because if you don't, your whole life you're going to be wondering what's missing. Something is missing. Something is off. And everything looks good, but something is missing. And what's missing is it's not out here. It's in here. And you have to take the time now to really figure that out. And like I said, if you don't do a meditation, start with Nicole's activation. It's amazing. It's a fantastic meditation. It's in the description. Go to the description, click on it, get that meditation, because it will definitely help you. I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
Thanks, Jason. For those who are watching and haven't got it yet, it's more of an activation for your masculine and feminine energies. There's a healing aspect in it. It's to kind of spark a bit of the Kundalini within you. It's also meant to really help you understand the power behind your feminine energies and the power behind your masculine energies, and what they were always intended to be. And so the activation is meant to bring them into union through that meditation, to assist you when you're bringing your energies into union then allows you to create from a place of union, which is super powerful. And that's why we're doing this whole thing, is so that you guys can learn how to tap into that potential of union. It's the union that really it speeds everything up. It gets that instantaneous manifestation result, but also it brings it into extreme power.
Yeah. So we're at the 7-minute mark here. And if you guys want more information on the Divine Masculine and Feminine, please take advantage. Nicole has been very generous, and she is offering her course at a 33% discount, again, in the description. And if you want to know more about this, please dive deep into her work. It's awesome what she is sharing here. And I also have my course, The Soul's Dream. It's in the description. It's a free course you guys can take. But please go deep into this information and contact us. We're here for you. We want to help. Our purpose now in this time is to help assist our fellow mankind in this awakening process. People are awakening. And what are they awakening to? Their greatest potential. The energetic flows within inside of them, and they have to understand how to use these energies. Because if they don't understand how to use it, I mean, think about it. If you don't understand how to use a pen, right? If you have a pen and someone gives you a piece of paper, like, what do I do with this? You draw with it. Well, you write your name. What is that? You have to understand how to use something in order to use it. And this activation meditation is a fantastic starting point. And Nicole's course is a great starting point from this point here and moving forward. So definitely check those out. Any more questions, baby? Jane?
Oh, yes. Sunny B asks, how to deal with transsexuals in a good way. The new mainstream only abuses them for the trend, and we on the spiritual side say, stay what you are. How to prevent genders to be neutral but stay oneself?
Did you hear that, Nicole?
Yeah. That was a great question, actually.
Yeah, very good. You want to shoot at that one, or?
Yeah, Sunny, you brought up a really good point that they're being used right now, and it's true. This is a really important topic. This is a very, very important topic,
Mm-hmm.
and it shouldn't be discussed lightly. I know we don't have as much time to go into this, but I will just give you guys a little bit of my perspective on this. Um, I am all for anyone who needs to do whatever they need to do to find their happiness. Very supportive of that. But the reality is that your happiness comes from within you first. And as a society, we're encouraging the changes only on the outside. We're not encouraging the help that may be needed on the inside first. And so we need to be accepting of everyone. That means also that everyone needs to be accepting of us. And so how do we bridge that gap? And the whole transgender topic is very controversial, for a very good reason. No one wants you to talk about it in a way that is, I guess someone might perceive it as hurtful, but it's not meant to be hurtful. Like, if we're not able to understand something fully, how do we understand it and move forward? And I think, for me personally, I actually know people who've reached out to me who've told me they were on the cusp of a sex change, but then had a huge shift within them and found some happiness and realized they didn't want to have a sex change and that they were so happy they didn't. I myself had a very difficult time identifying with being a woman, with being a girl. I really desperately wanted to be a boy. So much so that when I was a child or a young teen, like I was about 12 years old, I distinctly remember sitting on the edge of my bed, rocking back and forth, praying to God to make my breast stop growing, because I was so disconnected from my body. And I hated being a female. The only thing that saved me was knowing, was finally going within and learning how to accept the feminine aspects of myself and learn the power and the beauty behind them, until I finally love now being a woman. I love my body. I love that aspect, but I didn't have that. So I have a perspective of that in some way that I really feel as a community, we need to stop looking at the physical changes and start addressing the more emotional and mental and spiritual aspects that haven't been addressed as a society yet, to assist people who are in deep pain, wanting to physically alter their body, which, again, if that is something that someone desperately believes that they need to do, then that's fine, no judgment, because we all have to go through our own journeys and discover what we need to do. But why are we promoting only the physical change and not assisting first before that happens? Because there are people that are coming forward that are now very regretful of doing that, having the sex change and wishing they never did. How do we address that? It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be that way, but we need to address more of the emotional and mental, spiritual aspects before we go into the physical change. And I think we as a community need to start getting more honest and having open discussions about that. But it seems that if we have an open discussion about it, if you say the wrong thing, it's considered hateful, and that's not it at all. How do we have an open conversation where we're understanding one another?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very, very good way of putting it. And the thing is really it starts within, right? So, and I think, like you're saying, there's emotional blockages, right? So we're talking about earlier, we're talking about the out of balance masculine and feminine energies, not a gender, but an out of balance of these energetic principles within inside of us. Each one of us has these out of balances within inside of us. And I think before we would jump into doing something physically, I think it would be so important to balance that within inside of you, because who you are right now, who you were born as, is absolutely beautiful. And I think some of the ideas too are we only live one life. No, we live so many different lives, in so many different aspects, and as male, female, and the energy is so robust. But who you are is so beautiful now, in this moment. And you don't have to go through a physical change to become beautiful, but I think people perceive that as they're not good enough, or they have to make a change to be good enough. And
Yeah.
that's not something outside. That's something inside. And like I was talking about those energies that shut down when we're younger, right? So when you're younger, you're wide open. These energies are wide open. And when certain things happen, these emotional traumas, they close off. When they close off, the only way we know how to fix things are physically, because a lot of us don't know how to go in and release these energies that are within us.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to first start within. And once you
Yeah.
find absolute love for who you are right here, right now, then make any decision you want. But I think it's so important to love yourself for who you are right here and right now. And because you're not a physical being. I mean, you are pure energy, pure awareness that takes on a human being, right? You take on the human being, but who you are is not this human being. You only take on this human being for a few years, of time, 80 to 100 years, and then you transition into another being, right? Another human being. We go through these cycles of reincarnation. So who you are, the true essence of you, is not a physical being. But when you're in the physical reality, there's so much emphasis put on the physical reality as if this is all that is. This is not all that is. What we're seeing is 370 nanometers in the visible light spectrum, which is nothing within the electromagnetic spectrum. I mean, we're blind. We are so blind into seeing what we think reality is. This is only a sliver of what reality is. For instance, a piece of paper is 100,000 nanometers thick. Think about that. A piece of paper, 100,000 nanometers, and we can only see in 370 nanometers within the electromagnetic spectrum. So we are basically blind to all of what reality is. So this physical world is just a fraction of who we are. And to put so
Hmm.
much emphasis on that, we're really blocking the energies who we truly are that are inside of us, that are manifesting through us. So it's a tough topic, like you said, Nicole. But I
Yeah,
think
and I guess the only other thing I want to say about that, if I didn't say it, is that it's likely, I'm not saying this is 100% for certain, but if I had to guess, just from my own experience with my own disconnection of my body, and from what I've heard from other people who've experienced same things, is that if you are born a man and you want to transition into a woman or vice versa, it is the energy of your actual born gender, okay? That you are that energy. So if you were born a man, the masculine energy you have a disconnect with. Something in that energy you aren't connecting with, and you've shut down and you devalue. And you don't want to look at. There's some sort of self-loathing going on towards that. And so and then it flips again. So for me, what I was experiencing was the self-loathing towards being a woman, so my feminine aspect, and I shut that down. And so that, I believe, is something, at least part of the problem or the issue that's going on within individuals who are experiencing this. And if that's why it's so important to talk about the masculine and feminine energies right
yeah,
now,
it really
is that when
is.
you understand you have both, okay, and you can access both, and when you learn to love both aspects of yourself and see the beauty within each one and how divine each energy is individually, and then how they work in synergy, that changes the whole game for you. Your ability to find internal happiness and self-love just skyrockets. It's really a lot more achievable for you in a much faster way.
Yeah. And with that, it is time to, unfortunately, time to end this awesome
Yeah.
broadcast.
Thanks, Jason, for doing this
Yeah.
with me.
Nicole, thank you very much. And for everyone out there, Nicole and I absolutely love you. You are our fellow human presences. We love you guys so much, and thank you for joining us. And
Thank you, guys.
enjoy. Have an amazing day. All the best. If I can find the